Now, John Rappaport is a media analyst, investigative journalist, and frequent guest here on the broadcast, and he joins us for the balance of the hour to take phone calls and cover the news. But I wanted to just overall get your take here, John, on historically the point we're at. And I don't want you to just agree with me out of hand, because I don't know your view right now on this. I want to get it. That I see this as one of the most historical things that's ever happened. You've got a mass awakening to the false flags. All these prominent people, from Rush Limbaugh to Pat Buchanan to Rand Paul, saying our government's behind al-Qaeda now. This looks like a false flag. This is unprecedented. The military's waking up en masse. The military's calling into the show saying they're against it. The media's trying to spin it and saying it's all fake. Well, is Rush Limbaugh and Pat Buchanan fake? And Rand Paul and Ted Cruz, are they fake? Is Alex Jones fake? No. The truth is this is all imploding. Secretary of State Kerry is saying if there's any more atrocities, it's those of us that are against the war, it's our fault. So they're trying to guilt us, which is just royally over the top and arrogant. And I see this as the moment that the New World Order really begins to collapse. It may take a month, it may take 5 years, but this is really a magic moment where more and more people are putting on the dark sunglasses and seeing the real world, a.k.a. they live. But we're at that critical juncture where the devils that run this may try an even bigger crisis to try to regain control over the world's psyche. So do you agree with me on that? And if so, if not, where do you think we are historically? Because I know you're a smart guy and talk about the mass psyche of the public. You said day one that it was a devastating victory against CNN when I blew up and put them on notice. So many people were scared up front and didn't like it. Weeks later, they said it was one of the most greatest moments ever. And when I talked to the producers, they said, we're not allowed to have you back on, even though we had 2 million plus viewers. He normally has 500,000 on that CNN show. And basically, it's now seen, as you said it was, as a major time that the trance was broken. I see this as about 100 times bigger than that, maybe 1,000 times, and that this is a sea-changing event. We're going to break in a moment. This is a short segment, but John Rappaport, give us your take on how big this is.
Well, Alex, I've been doing nothing but writing about this for the last 2-3 days, one article after another, because I see it as this shifting, huge iceberg shifting, because so many people are now aware that this is a completely phony deal, yet another war that's being foisted on us for no good reason. There is no evidence. We're not allowed to see the evidence. Just as always, we have to take it on faith. And people are breaking out all over the place, whether it's in alternative media, whether it's even in some portions of mainstream media. Certain politicians are stepping forward and saying, hold on, this is phony, and we have a chance to do something about it here. Meanwhile, the war machine keeps on running on and on and on. You've got Kerry saying, well, maybe just a single attack isn't enough. Maybe it's going to have to be extended, etc. And he said today that the Arabs would pay for this whole thing, and that that would be fine with him, the entire invasion, meaning much more than a missile strike. I mean, talk about a clash of civilizations. This is it.
Oh, yeah, and they're saying boots on the ground. Wow, I can't wait to hear what else you're going to break down. Absolutely crystallizing what I've been trying to say in 2 hours and 2 minutes. We'll be right back with the amazing John Rappaport, your phone calls and more. But yeah, America and NATO now as mercenaries of Saudi Arabia, offering to pay to have Damascus turned over to them. Johnny Appleseed was born during the Revolutionary War. He's not just a legend. And in more than 5 states, he introduced apples that had not even been grown in the colonies. Later, the seeds from plants he planted and cultivated and some of the varieties he developed spread across the United States. And it was Johnny Appleseed teaching the colonists and then the new Americans, after we won independence, the love of planting fruit trees that introduced that idea to North America. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a revolutionary act to unplug from the television, to unplug from the computer and all the globalist propaganda, and to go out in your backyard or your front yard or planters at your apartment or on the roof of the building where you live, and to plant a garden.
Become the Johnny Appleseed of your community with seeds from the InfoWars Seed Center at InfoWarsStore.com.
The simple act of planting fruits and vegetables and then tending them and taking care of them and then sharing them with friends and family is a revolutionary act against tyranny. The globalists, first and foremost, do not want us to be self-sufficient. The crony anti-free market capitalist, the fascist, are using socialism and collectivism to shut down societies. Stalin in Poland and in Ukraine and other areas starved on record more than 10 million people over 5 years by not letting them grow their own crops and collectivizing them. Mao killed between 65 million and 80 plus million people doing this same thing. The UN says they will use food as a weapon. They use genetic evil to attack the earth, and major GMO companies have been caught going into growth belts around the world, even where GMO is illegal, and planting seeds everywhere to infect the genetics of the original crops. Almost all of the thousands of varieties of Mexican corn has been infected. They are in a genetic war against everyone. That's why we have to get these seeds and not just plant them on our own gardens and not just give them as gifts to friends and family to plant spring and summer and fall gardens. I'm calling on you to go out into the green belts, to go out into the areas and plant secret gardens. No, not of marijuana, but of the hundreds and hundreds of incredible high-quality vegetables and herbs and fruit plants that are here. Lemons and oranges, the list goes on and on. They will grow, plum trees, grape trees, they will grow almost everywhere in the U.S. We can literally, not just buying these products from InfoWarsStore.com, but from wherever you get them. This aggressive program literally just came to me one morning when I woke up about 4 a.m. realizing that we've got to counter their genetic war against us with original, real crops developed over eons on this planet. We have the lowest prices. We bought it in the biggest bulk that some of these companies have ever seen to ship this directly to you from the InfoWars Command Center. We stand for life. We stand for liberty. We stand for self-sufficiency. Go to InfoWarsStore.com, click on the Seed Center, and as of taping this, we have the 7 top respected brands. We intend to continue to do research and find other companies, other specialties, other varieties to really take action.
The InfoWars Store Seed Center has the largest online selection of heirloom, non-GMO seeds.
Check out these products from our newest supplier, Heirloom Organics.
The Medicine Garden for a natural remedy.
The Tea Garden that contains every important tea herb you can grow.
Fruit Lovers with 12 varieties.
And the Tobacco Pack, additive and pesticide free.
Join the gardening revolution today at InfoWarsStore.com.
This is a revolutionary action we're asking you to take. Plant seeds everywhere today. Nurture them, bring them to fruit, and pass on the knowledge to others. Become human again. Discover your roots in the soil. And remember, the revolution against tyranny is growing. RT put out about 45 minutes ago that they had found that the rebels had made the chemical weapons and that it was the new chemical weapons. And then they updated it to say, no. The 2 separate times before we tested it, and that was confirmed earlier this year and last year, the UN tested it, it was not the types that the Syrian military has. Folks, we have WorldNet Daily last week with the videos that were uploaded on real jihadi sites that have been around for years of them loading the chemical mortars and firing them. And they are of the NATO type. So you can look that up for yourself. So, I mean, all of this is really passé now. So it's almost a minor point, though, because that's what I've been making the point over and over again, is that if you have the rebels caught by the Turks and others with chemical weapons, it gets tested, and they go, this is Western chemical weapons. They're not even trying to go and fake Russian-style systems, which they could do. They just don't care. They don't even care that for 2.5 years they've called the rebels protesters and activists. They did that in Libya. How dare the Libyans, or how dare the Egyptians, how dare the Syrians crack down on protesters? Protesters with rocket launchers, protesters with anti-aircraft missiles. This is all about Benghazi, folks. And the military, who knows about all this stuff, that's their business. They're really freaked out. Because as I've told you for 2.5 years, in Jordan, there are U.S. CIA contractors, because the main military isn't even really doing it, training brigade-level groups of jihadis on sabotage, you name it. And I've been telling you that for 2.5 years. Obama came out yesterday in the New York Times, said, I'm getting tough. We're sending in CIA-trained jihadis, commandos, out of Jordan. There have been contractor boots on the ground fighting Russians. There's been Russians dying. The jihadis have paraded them around on TV. I mean, U.S. troops are commanding al-Qaeda against Russians right now. And I'm not siding with Russia. My country's been hijacked by the New World Order and is doing all this. We're going back to John Rappaport and your calls, but here it is, Reuters. Putin presses U.S. Congress over Syria, says Kerry lied. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Wednesday the U.S. Congress had no right to approve the use of force against Syria without a decision from the UN Security Council, and that doing so would be an act of aggression. He said anything that is outside the UN Security Council is aggression, except self-defense. Now that Congress and the U.S. Senate are doing, in essence, is legalizing aggression. This is inadmissible in principle. They lie beautifully. Of course, I saw debates in Congress. A congressman says, Mr. Kerry, is al-Qaeda there? He says, no, I am telling you responsibly that it's not. Putin said at a meeting of his Human Rights Council in the Kremlin. And then he goes on to say al-Qaeda units are the main military echelon, and they know this, he said, referring to the United States. It was unpleasant and surprising for me. We talked to them. We proceed from the assumption that they are direct people. But he is lying and knows he is lying. That's right. The Russian military is talking to the U.S. military, and the U.S. military is basically apologizing. And Dempsey's saying don't launch an attack. This is unprecedented to the level that Matt Drudge puts out a tweet saying Vladimir Putin is now the leader of the free world. This is disgusting that we are run by such rotten, nasty... I look at those senators up there attacking Rand Paul right now. They're all these old, nothing against old people, but these old, corrupt. An old person that's loving is very wonderful, but an old, evil, bloated, corrupt scumbags. They're all attacking Rand, acting like he doesn't know anything, acting like, but he's tearing them up right now on C-SPAN. We're taping it. And I sit there and I watch the spectacle. Let's go back to John Rappaport. John, crystallize all this for us historically. Where do you think it's going? How big a deal is this? And do you feel like vomiting when you look at Kerry? Because it's like all the humanity was sucked out of him, and he's a rubber suit now. I mean, just in the last month, John Kerry looks like a body snatcher took him over. I mean, it's like he's been cursed with his evil. Go to Jason in Missouri. You're on the air. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hey, Alex. Good afternoon to you. First and foremost, I want to thank God. Because without him, we wouldn't be there. Without him, you wouldn't be there either. And this is frightening. This is one of the scariest times in my life. I mean, I don't really fear anything. It's just looking at my kids and imagining these war machines going loose. Just seeing everything I've seen so far in my lifetime doesn't compare to these few moments. These few months that has passed, and we've seen is everything they've done all come together. What scares me the most is that we are winning, and I know we're winning, and everybody knows we're winning. But when we're winning like this, it has their back against a wall. That's what's frightened me the most, because when you have an animal back against a wall, they fight. Like say a robber robs a bank. when he gets put in a situation where he has to get out of that situation, he'll do anything. Anything. So that frightens me the most.
Well, sir, I absolutely agree with you. It's a cornered demon, and they're all going to go to prison. I mean, if one part of their criminal operation starts imploding, it'll all implode. And they know that, so they're very, very dangerous. And I'm going to ask John Rappaport, who we got back on the line, his take on that I'm going to give you the latest headlines on prisonplanet.com and Infowars.com. There's some big breaking news right now. But John, you just heard his point. Where do you see this going? How do you think the empire will strike back with a false flag?
Well, it's quite likely that they will. You know, the whole thing was set up to give the false impression that, okay, Obama's going to the Congress and they're going to authorize this and then there's going to be an attack and so forth. And that means all of a sudden Obama's a wartime president. And traditionally that means ratings, approval ratings go way up. Doesn't matter what it is. Okay, we attacked, ratings go up. But that's not happening this time. It's amazing that it's not happening. And regardless of whether we attack or don't attack, it's not going to happen. He's not going to get that same bump that all these so-called wartime presidents get.
You just said the key. Everything they're doing is the opposite of the Midas touch. Whatever they touch turns to absolute you-know-what.
Yep, absolutely. And they are absolutely at their wits' end. They don't know what to do because they're using the traditional playbook, right, of media collusion with the government. They've got all their puppets out there saying, yes, we have to do this. Yes, we have to kill Syrians in order to save the presidency.
We've got to start World War III or we're immoral. Kerry said if we don't do this, any more death is our fault when they started it. They injected the commandos. They started it, and they've got the nerve to say we did it.
Yeah, and then Chris Matthews comes in and pretty much says, this is all about saving Obama's presidency, and we have to go to war and kill people in order to do that.
Breaking, Russia says Syria chemical weapons made by rebels last time, so that's evidence they did it this time. And I'm glad that's being pointed out because we've been pointing that out. It's like, does anybody forget they got caught doing this 3 separate times, twice? The UN had to admit that the evidence was that it wasn't Assad, i.e. the rebels. I mean, do we forget that? Oliver Stone slams push towards intervention in Syria. Syria, conservative icons put anti-war left to shame. And you've got Matt Drudge, Pat Buchanan, Rand Paul, and so many others. Rush Limbaugh, Amash, Congressman Amash. You've got Ted Cruz coming out saying the government runs al-Qaeda, saying it looks like a false flag. I mean, this is just the best news we've ever seen. Because, see, now it's safe for the general public to talk about this. Now it's safe for more in Congress to talk about it. Now it's safe for the military to come out and speak out against it. John, how big is it that all these prominent libertarians are coming out and conservatives and really showing they're good guys in the final equation? Because the neocons are all wanting this. Matt Drudge is saying, in fact, I have his quotes over here. I retweeted this at Real Alex Jones. He says, it's now authoritarianism versus libertarian. Since Democrats versus Republicans has been obliterated, no real difference between the parties.
Absolutely right. It's exactly the way he's putting it. It's people who want to be free, who want to get government out of all of this war machine business. They see through it in a second. It's a completely phony setup from the beginning. Kerry, as you said, you know, he looks like a corpse that they dragged in, who's pre-programmed to say what he's saying. Obama has absolutely nowhere to go here because he...
You know, I wonder what's going on with Kerry. I wonder what's going on with Kerry, that he does look like a reanimated corpse. His wife, I know she's been sick, looks like she's dying behind him, why he brought her. And he would when the others were speaking, he'd put his hands on the desk and lean his head down. And he's like this all the time now. Maybe he's dying or something. I mean, I'm just speculating here. But or maybe they've death threatened him into doing this. But I mean, you know, because I don't know what's going on, folks. But I mean, I'm telling you, it's scary to watch these hearings and to look at the scum that we have. Again, Mike's Skype continues to break up. We'll go to him whenever we get him back. Let's talk to Patrick in Louisiana. Patrick, you're on the air. Go ahead. What's your take?
Yes, yeah, I was
kind of wanted to float the idea of, it seems like with so many people waking up that the goal is kind of being cornered, this most dangerous time, that what if we float the idea of immunity for anybody who's willing to come forward and
yeah, the problem is we're not in control of the government yet, so we can't give that immunity. Once we ever do start sending these people to prison, it'll all fall like a house of cards. This has happened over and over again. All tyrants think they're invincible. All oligarchies think they're invincible. But this one is long in the tooth, degenerate, backstabbing, and now their Agenda 21 program is making everybody poor, and so the public's not going to go along with it now. The bread and circuses aren't quenching the mob's thirst anymore. But I'll tell you this, it's time for whistleblowers, just as the late, great Michael Hastings said, to all go public, and then they can't stop everybody. Okay, that's the answer. I appreciate your call. Anything else, Patrick?
No, it's just I've been a listener since 2000. It's so great. Your show just keeps on getting better and better, and I'm so glad everyone else is listening as well.
God bless you, sir. It's good to it's good to have you call into the broadcast, and God bless you. We appreciate you. All right, let's go ahead now, and let's go to John Rappaport. We've got back on phone this time. John, you've got the floor till we go to break. We're going to come back and take calls. Sorry, your Skype's breaking up. Continue making the points you were eloquently trying to get to.
Well, some of that is being reflected in what your callers are saying. Whistleblowers coming out of the closet, coming out of the woodwork, everywhere, all at once. That's the whole idea. It's momentum. It builds up to a certain critical mass, which we've reached right now with this whole Syria episode. And people are talking. People in the military are talking. They're saying, I don't want to go to war to fight on the side of al-Qaeda. This is ridiculous. There is no end game. What's the purpose of this whole thing? Where has it been stated that there's any reason for doing this? All Obama's been able to say is we have to make a statement, send a message, punish the blah, blah, blahs for doing this and that, when the evidence shows clearly that there's no reason to assume that this was Assad's chemical weapons to begin with. So the whole thing is falling apart like a house of cards, and none of the traditional methods of trying to prop up the government are working, because we've got now such a fantastically powerful alternative media that it can't work. It's just not going to work. He's not going to succeed, Obama, in this by getting any sort of bump in ratings or becoming a wartime president to pump up his other programs that he can't get support for. The other scandals are not going to go away by this distraction, Benghazi, et cetera, et cetera. They're all going to stay on the table. They're at their wits' end. They have no game plan for this whatsoever, and it's exploding in their faces, their entire corrupt system, which is, I just wrote an article this morning. The structure of the federal government is now a permanent war structure. That's what it is. And it's not just the Pentagon. You look at all the agencies, the FDA, the USDA, the CIA, the IRS. You just run them down one at a time. What are they all about? They're about searching out people who are breaking some kind of regulation that they don't even know they're breaking, and punishing them. This is war against the people. This is the way the government is structured. So it's very natural that they would say, well, we have to attack Syria because this is what we do. This is all that we do. This is what you're paying for. You people who are sinking further and further below the poverty line, this is what your taxes have been paying for, is a wartime permanent government on all fronts, domestically, foreign, in every other fashion possible. And so you're going to have to go along with this. But the response is, what level of insidious, hideous corruption is necessary to have this kind of government? And when you look at these people talking, Kerry, Obama, McCain, who's completely out of his mind, and I think that Kerry, he looks to me like a guy who's either been put in a trance or has been drugged to the gills or threatened in some possible way.
Listen, that's why I'm freaked out, because I've watched C-SPAN since I was, in high school. That was like my soap operas when I was in high school. I would like watching it. I watched the Waco hearings, you name it. they all never look like this. They look like mentally ill, crazy people now. All of them, except for the few good guys. They all look handsome and sharp and awake and like, you know, they look like reanimated corpses. It's true. It's like they're the Legion of Satan or something. I mean, what do you think's going on?
I'm not sure, but I mean, you look at Harry Reid, Pelosi, Barney Frank, John Kerry, and then, you know, Boehner on the Republican side and other Republicans as well. I mean, these people look like they died a couple of years ago and they were brought back as, you know, zombies. That's what they really do look like. And that's the way they're talking. It's like something that was pre-recorded out of the grave. You know, they should have hideous organ music going on.
Yeah, something's going on. I mean, I actually last night went home and was like freaked out because there's like something else going on here. I mean, it's like a science fiction movie, like They Live or something.
Now you can watch The Alex Jones Show live as it happens at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
More than 60 movies and documentaries all in one place at Infowars.com/show.
John, in your gut, where do you see all this going? Because it's not like the Chinese and the Russians are going to save us. They're just as bad, just not as sophisticated as the globalists, or maybe not as demonic as Skull and Bones Carry. But it does seem like that everybody's woken up kind of to the paradigm, at least people that know how to tie their shoelaces. And you've got all these Democrats, though, showing how weird they are, saying, we need to go ahead and attack to prop up Obama. You've got the District of Columbia, District of Criminals, Congresswoman saying that. You've got Matthews, Slimeball saying it. Why do they like to get on MSNBC and say, yeah, we lie to you and say there's no drones, even though there are? Ha, 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 idiots. I mean, I guess it is that old thing of criminals love to brag, or is it a rubbing it in? I mean, you know, would these people shoot themselves with or their children with a firing squad if Obama told them, all because Matthews gets a tingle up his leg, you know, looking at Obama as like artificial Viagra for him?
I think it's like looking at a crime family. They stick together. And they don't care what they say or what they do or how crazy they look. They're basically telling us, hey, you know, we're a crime family and we run the country. And this is what we're doing. And it doesn't matter. And we support each other. They're sending signals to each other is what they're doing. You know.
Hey, let us start World War III.
Doesn't matter what's going to happen. I'm there. And I'll stick with you all the way, you know, to the firing squad if necessary. And they just keep telling themselves that, only it's happening on television. You know, it's happening on live TV that you're seeing these lunatics doing this. So what I think is going to happen, I mean, I don't like to get into too many predictions, but my prediction is, yeah, the Congress is going to approve it. They're going to go ahead. They're going to attack Syria. The media wall to wall are going to try to play it like this is a noble action and prop up Obama, and it ain't going to work. It's not going to work. It's only going to make things 1,000 times worse for them. That's what's going to happen.
And I think Russia will probably stand down, not wanting to cause World War III, but then that only encourages more aggression. But there's a good chance Assad is going to hit Israel. And if their missile defense doesn't work, Israel's gotten where they are because they have a lot of chutzpah. They may go ahead and nuke them.
Well, they're certainly going to respond, one militarily, one way or another. There's no question about that. So, yeah, I mean, this whole thing could blow up into something I mean, that's why, obviously, these nuclear warheads were shifted, because, you know, it's all about contingencies, and the Pentagon is well aware that when you just go charging like a bull into a china shop, okay, let's bomb Syria and send a message that you're lighting up, you know, 7 or 8 different countries all of a sudden who have proprietary interests in the whole region, and then you could get massive warfare developing out of that. You bet. Yeah, I think Russia's going to stand down, too, for now. But when they stand down, that doesn't mean that they don't do covert things. I mean, they're not going to just say, oh, well, we couldn't win this time. That's not the way they're going to play it.
And again, it's not like it's America running off and doing all this. It's globalists running us that are doing this. And I think Congress is leaning towards doing it, but I also see such a backlash. I think it's up to what we do, John. I think if we all call Congress, if we all call talk radio, and literally bully these bullies, beat them over the head that they're the ones that are going to cause World War III in the name of children, and hit that point about how the government's backing al-Qaeda, how America isn't al-Qaeda's Air Force, I think we can stop it. But Obama may go ahead and hit them anyways. I had tried everything. I'd cut back the amount of food I was eating. I was lifting weights and jogging, but nothing was working. My body was literally starving for minerals and trace elements as well as key vitamins. And as soon as I had that, I immediately could eat half of what I was eating previously and be satisfied. Now, there are hundreds of great products at InfoWarsTeam.com, but I want to point out the 3 that have helped me lose 37 pounds in just 2 months. Products like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, Pollen Burst, and Rebound. When I started taking the Tangy Tangerine and other products every day, I lost more than 37 pounds in just 2 months. Now that's results. I want to challenge my listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com and to order just 3 of their products, and you will see the changes in the way you look, feel, and in your appetite almost immediately. Start your journey to health and wellness today. InfoWarsTeam.com. And we're going to continue with your calls and overdrive until we're done, at least for the top 5 or 6, like Charlie, Antonio, and Vince, and Eddie. Is there a reason Antonio is on my board twice? Did the same guy calling on 2 lines? I've never seen that before. Let's go to Charlie in California. You're on the air with John Rappaport. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah, I just want to thank both of you guys for all the hard work you guys are doing. And mainly what I wanted to say was a message to the American public. I believe today is that we're in a bunch of trouble, and you speak about it so truthfully every day, and I appreciate it. But the American people have to get involved today. Like I always give the analogy is most people are in the living room watching TV, and they're entertained, and I understand that. We've lived that life for quite a while, and look where it's got us.
They got to get out of the spectator mode.
Yeah, so then there's people in the kitchen. Those are the people that watch InfoWars. Those are the people that are informed, and they're just having a conversation with one another. As they keep talking about it, but there's no action behind their argument. See, the people that are going to make the change, the people that are going to make a difference are the ones that know the information, but actually go now and wake up the rest of the
that's a great analogy. Why does everybody always hang out in the kitchen? I know I always do that, too. That's why we moved out of a larger house into a lot smaller house, because I'm like, well, we don't need a big house. We live in the bedroom and the kitchen. And build a whole house where it's just a kitchen, I guess, and the bed comes down on the wall. But no, but that's true. You got the spectators that just watch TV all day and just think it's all entertainment. And then you got those of us that actually live in the kitchen, and we're talking about reality here. That's a great analogy. Great point, Charlie. Comments on that, John Rappaport.
Yeah, the kitchen is a place where people actually sit down and talk and do a little thinking and get away from their crazy television sets. But even on the television now, you can see some voices speaking out and saying, this is insane, this is completely crazy. And they're trying to cut them off, and they're trying to say, oh, satellite connection went out on Ron Paul and CNN, and so we got to listen to Chris Matthews talk about how wonderful Obama is. But they're also transparent that it's rebounding against them. It's just preposterous. It's like zombies talking about how war is necessary.
It's like zombies trying to run the Philharmonic Orchestra. What do you call that when the propaganda starts feeding back and not working anymore in history? Because, I mean, I think it's a tipping point.
Yeah, it is definitely a tipping point. I mean, they used to call it blowback in intelligence agency parlance, and I just think it's the end of the imperial empire. I mean, when you try to go out, and you're right, the globalists are controlling the government ultimately. When you try to go out and just decimate populations and throw them into chaos and then move in with the banksters and take over and refinance the whole thing. And
that's bad mojo.
You just can't keep on doing that without getting people waking up. I mean, at a certain point, and we're at that point now, people from all sides of the political spectrum are saying, hey, wait a minute, this is insane. This has nothing to do with partisanship. It just has to do with, somebody wants to kill people. That's what they want to do. They think war is the highest human activity possible, and they want to pursue it. That's what it's all about. And we got to stop it.
And it is one of the highest human things if it's you fighting for your tribe against an invading group where it's there and that. But with the globalists, it's all about picking on little countries and tearing them apart and blowing up every church. Let me ask this when we come back. So remember this question, and we'll go more calls. Why do they hate Christians? I don't mean the glitterbug, Hagee types, that buy into, pro-government stuff, but why do the globalists want to destroy old Christian civilization around the world? Whether it's Orthodox, Protestant, Catholic, it doesn't matter. I was just watching Senator Corker in the Senate hearing where they're trying to get this war authorization going to expand the illegal covert war of the last 2.5 years using al-Qaeda jihadi scumbags against the sovereign nation of Syria. And even Corker was saying, man, this thing is for like all-out war in the whole region. I mean, I'm going to support a war in Syria. I'm a good patriot. But this thing gives Obama the authorization to attack anywhere, basically, in the world. Well, that's what one of the top lawyers that worked for Bush said yesterday. We had an article about that on Infowars.com, that it was written for that. And I went and read it. It was clearly written that way. So they're doing amendments to strip that out now. But it just shows how when Kerry was asked yesterday by Senator Mendez, he was asked, you're not going to have boots on the ground, right? And he said, well, we might actually need boots on the ground. So we're going to get to that clip coming up in a few minutes. But to answer the question I posed before the break with John Rappaport, a political analyst, why do they love, at least from my perspective, to hunt down villages of Christians in Africa, Asia, Middle East, Latin America, you name it, the UN, the globalist? They love to kill Christians. Why is that from your deep research, or do you disagree with that statement, John Rappaport?
No, I don't disagree, and I think the reason is simple and clear, and it applies to other religions as well. If you believe that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness comes from a power higher than the government, then you're an enemy of the government, because they are saying, we gave you freedom. That's where it comes from, and therefore we could take it away. And these people are saying, just a minute, hold on, that's not the way we think, that's not what we believe, and we'll go to the wall with our belief that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness come from some higher power than the government. And that's it, period. End of story. That cannot be, countenanced by the globalists, because they have to destroy that, because they want a planet where everybody is brainwashed and hypnotized into believing that whatever they get, whatever's given to them, whatever freedom they have or don't have, it's all a function of the ruling class, and they can take it away anytime they want to. They can dole it out in small dribbles. They can just absolutely remove it, send you to prison, because government is the highest authority. And anybody who challenges that is right on their target list.
And by the way, John Rappaport, I didn't talk to you before the show today. I didn't talk to you in that last break. I asked you that question to see what you would say, and you gave, from my perspective, the absolute perfect answer of hundreds. Here is the current issue of InfoWars magazine for September 2013, and it's Obama as the Christ, and it says, thou shalt not have any gods above the state. And that's it. These people with Google and the AI, they say they're going to become God, Ray Kurzweil and others. They are God in their eyes, and they're a jealous God, and we shall have no gods above them. And people understand the psychology. They want to kill because that's the ultimate expression of playing God. They don't want to go take a walk in the beautiful woods or go fishing or hang out with their grandchildren. They want to murder people. And they get off on chopping children's heads off. It turned out Congress came out 6, 7 years ago when the torture news came out, many members of Congress for hours would go into classified briefing areas to watch the people being tortured, including children, and they would come out very invigorated and very excited. And so that's what this is all about. I mean, this is Hellraiser stuff, and you ask, why do they like to do this? Because it's who they are. And they're not just a god in their views, they're a god of death. They're a god of pain. They're a god of destruction. They're a god of starvation. What's in Spanish? Who's the female Grim Reaper they worship down in Mexico that's now bigger than Mary? They call her the skinny one.
Oh, yeah.
How do you say that in Spanish?
I don't know. But I understand what you're talking about. That's, you know, it's like saying I have ultimate power. What is ultimate power? Power over life and death. That's my power. So you who don't have the power, you're going to fall into line with whatever I give you or take away from you. And to prove what I can do, I'm going to kill you. There's the proof. There's the proof. And they prove, so they're essentially proving it to themselves. They're saying, okay, I can kill people. And therefore, that proves to me that I have ultimate power, because when I do that, nothing happens to me. See, I'm still here. And that's where they take, you know, this is like, where do you find power? Where do you find energy? Where do you find faith? Where do you find life? And most people find it in many other places, but certainly not in that place. But death is where these guys find it. That's where they get it from.
Well, you know, I don't want to kill anybody, but I tell you, my gut tells me it'd be good if these people weren't on the planet. It's Santa Muerte.
Oh, yeah.
Muerte. Yeah, we'll put up the little Grim Reaper that's so popular in Mexico now and worshipped by the cartels. Well, one cartel, one big group worships the male Grim Reaper, but the female Grim Reaper, she's even more popular. And people have given up on Christ down there. They've decided that the God of death is going to deliver everything to them. And I guess that's where the whole world's going. And, of course, since they've been worshiping that particular deity, things have just gotten worse. And even if you don't believe in God or spiritual stuff, folks, what you focus on and what you believe and take for yourself as a template begins to manifest in the world. John Rappaport, do you agree with that statement?
Oh, absolutely, because then you live your life on that basis, and so that's what you produce, and that's what comes into being. No question about it, and especially over time, and especially when you've got these globalists who have been working on this plan of theirs for, you know, more than a century. I mean, they're essentially working to manifest their ultimate power over life and death. That's what it's all about. They feel they're entitled to it, and they're going to take it, and they do take it. And that's, you know, that's what they're playing. That's how they're doing it. And what's happening right now is in this Syrian episode, we're seeing it playing out. I mean, because they're essentially being very naked about the whole thing. We have the power. We can authorize it. Even if you guys don't authorize it, I can do it anyway, and I will, and that's the end of the story. I have power over life and death. I'll kill babies. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to send an email or a telegram or a message to Assad or whoever it is, or to Al-Qaeda saying, stop it, I'm going to kill people. Well, then everybody backs up and says, wait a minute, that doesn't even make sense. You're going to kill people that have nothing to do with this fiction that you've invented in the first place about chemical weapons, and then you're going to say that's payback for what you did? You know, I mean, that's a complete sociopath. That's somebody who's a total psychotic. And by the way, you've got another article up, about 20% of the population are now on psychoactive drugs. So there you go with part of the explanation, I'm sure, as to why many of these people that we're looking at in the government who look like zombies are acting the way they're acting.
Oh, yeah, they admit in the New Yorker magazine that 20% of the public is now on psychotropics, and they admit that the study shows that people don't have enough of the chemicals in their body, like serotonin, and that they could just give them that, and it's better. I can't believe there's an article in New Yorker magazine that's somewhat critical of psychotropics.
Yeah. And so how many people in the government does that include? What's John Kerry on? What's John McCain on? so that he can actually sit there in the middle of a debate and play poker on a little device held in his hand. I mean, the guy is totally wacko. If he's going to be bored, you'd think, okay, maybe he's reading a book or he's looking at news reports on his little device there. No, this guy is playing poker. And then, well, I was bored. And then he's the guy that says, we have to attack. Otherwise, we would be, quote, undermining the credibility of the United States of America and of the president. I mean, what drugs is he on? I've long written and said, we need an accounting of every public official and what medications they're on.
That's right. They're pushing for drug testing of the general public. How about they do monthly drug test and then it be published?
You bet. Monthly drug test. Oh, you mean this guy's on Zoloft, Paxil, Prozac, and he's on sleeping pills, and then he's also doing some kind of Adderall for speed, and he's voting in Congress and making statements about going to war? Hold on a minute. You bet. Let's have monthly.
Yeah, you could take one look at McCain and his wife and all the rest of it. These are certifiable lunatics.
Total.
Let's go ahead and take some phone calls here with John Rappaport. Let's go to Nick in Oklahoma. Thanks for holding, Nick. You're on the air.
Yes, I was in the Army for 6 years. I was in Bucha, Iraq with 10,000 detainees when I was there, so I know how FEMA camps run. I was in Afghanistan in Camp Marmel, that place where the SEAL team came out and killed Osama. I was there when that happened, but we never really saw them. But I just want to say something to all the veterans back to duty out there. Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes. I want to tell all them, a caller earlier mentioned that a lot of them are scared. A lot of them are scared to come out and say something. And I just want to tell them all, you know, you don't have to worry about your reputation. You don't have to worry about being labeled as a crazy person, because now it's serious. This is dangerous stuff. We're talking about World War III. Nothing will matter after that. Your reputation, being labeled as a crazy, none of that will matter. Our kids and our future is at stake here.
Well, yeah, I mean, we've even got Rush Limbaugh going public and Matt Drudge and all these people saying, you know, clearly we're fighting for Al-Qaeda and false flag and Pat Buchanan and all this. I mean, it's time. It's time to call it for what it is.
And I'm even, you know, you've got Oliver Stone up there saying the same thing. So it isn't just on the political right. You got people on all sides. You've got, I was just reading an article from, I think it was Truth Out, about various polls and so forth. I mean, the American people are completely realizing what's going on here. They're even now saying that the same CIA section, WINCAP, that twisted the evidence on WMDs in 2002 that led to the Iraqi war, they're the same section now responsible for evaluating the so-called evidence that Assad was using chemical weapons. It's a total farce.
Absolutely. I want to give Nice some more, or Nick, some more info. Start getting tired for 3 hours on air and start reading stuff wrong. We're going to go to Nick, back to Nick in a minute, but I wanted to show people this article since you mentioned that. German intelligence claims evidence Assad responsible for chemical attack. They're taking the same Israeli intercepts that could be anybody talking on the phone, reportedly with a member of Hezbollah talking to somebody in the government saying Assad accidentally ordered the attack, and then showing no proof. And it was the Germans last time that helped put out fake intelligence on Iraq and stuff. So absolutely disgusting that Germany's acting like they won't be part of the strike, but they're there trying to get it going. And then what do you make of the French being such big cheerleaders, the French government? I mean, I guess Hollande wants a diversion.
Yeah, I guess they do, or they want some favors from America. I mean, they're sort of standing on the fence about the whole thing. So maybe there's money passing.
Why do you think the British Parliament, for the first time in 200-plus years, voted it down?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's enough people now, even in government, that are so sick and tired of this whole thing. And they know what the blowback is going to be. They understand now. They realize that the public is rising up and that the alternative media is exposing the truth, and they don't want to have to pay the price for that when it comes time to pay.
Yeah, I think it's even more than, I mean, I agree with you, but it's more than that. A lot of these people in government are not even evil. They've been compartmentalized, and they've kind of sold out. But now they're finding out what they sold out to. They thought they just sold out to the establishment and everything was just going forever. They don't want to sell out to the Grim Reaper. They don't want to sell out to nuclear war. They don't want to sell out to bio war. They don't want to sell out to their grandkids all being 6 feet under.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And if there's one thing that the American people have to understand about this little episode here, it's what the dangers are that we talked about earlier. How all these other countries are going to want to get into the act, and anything could happen. Missiles fired from Syria to Israel. Israel responds with planes, bombs, missiles. Russia finally decides they have to get into the act. I mean, Saudi Arabia on, and of course the United States. This is just a complete, World War III waiting to happen at any moment. And here, these zombies in Congress are arguing about whether or not the constitutional authority should be given to the president to launch a message, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, people have to realize this is way bigger than that.
Oh, yeah, I was watching the senators up there, including the chairman, and they're like, we need to send Assad a message for his chemical attack, which they have no proof.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a group known to lie about stuff, and Assad doesn't have the motive. I mean, I think that's really why people are waking up, is they're like, he's told they'll invade and attack if he uses chemical weapons, and then it happens. And then it's Al-Qaeda that we're fighting for. It's just amazing. Nick, as a veteran and talking to other folks what's the sense of the military people you talk to about this?
Well, I got out about a year ago, but when I was in, I was always ridiculed when I'd bring up articles that I'd bring up from InfoWars, and people would just kind of shove it off as, whatever. But now they are totally proving themselves ignorant and stupid with everything that come out each day. They're looking more and more stupid, and that's what's. You mentioned earlier that as long as we keep slamming people with stuff and let them know that they're basically lying to us, we're eventually going to get through to everybody.
Absolutely, and I appreciate your call. It was Mark Twain that said, in the beginning, a patriot is a scarce man, hated and feared and scorned. But in time, when his cause succeeds, the timid join him, because then it costs nothing to be a patriot. Yeah. And we've hit the barbed wire, folks. I mean, I want to pat on the back all our listeners that have taken action, and pat myself and the crew on the back, just to say, hey, we're going in the right direction. And thank God that people have been out there to resist this and understand history, because if we don't know history, we repeat it. John?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you can throw a little Thomas Paine in there, too. These are the times of try men's souls. This is not some formal little debate happening in Congress right now. This is the exposure of an entire massive war machine operation controlled ultimately by the globalists. This is where they are going. They think they can get there and that they will be able to overcome any resistance, but
that's a good question. What is Saudi Arabia, Israel, the globalists, the Germans, the big banks? I mean, even when warmongering England gets on the bleachers, because they can look at the angles on this, and historically now we become the bad guy. We become the Hitler. We become the Napoleon. How do they think they're going to get away with this? Because, I mean, I guess they're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. Why do they think they can just keep winning? I don't get it.
Well, I think because they believe that they put into place oppressive enough governments that can control their own populations, and that people are so hypnotized and so put in a trance that they'll accept anything because they just want to survive. That's their calculation as far as I can see. They just think, okay, we control enough of the population, they're under our thumb, and therefore we can do anything, and it won't make any difference. But they're wrong. They're dead wrong.
Well said, John Rappaport. Absolutely well said. There's a lot of news up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com that's been breaking. One of them is Syria. Conservative icons put anti-war left to shame. Drudge, Buchanan, Rand Paul, Justin Amash highlight hypocrisy of Obama supporters. So does Ted Cruz. We need to get that added to the article. But it's so important that we get this article out to everybody and people retweet it from Real Alex Jones. Let's jam in a few final calls here. Antonio in New Jersey, thanks for holding her on the air with John Rappaport.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, hi, Alex. Actually, the first time I listened to your show was quite interesting. It was on September 11th of 2001. And you had an interesting host on your show by the name of William LaRouche. Hello?
Yeah, you're on air, brother.
Okay. Yes, and he was talking about how this was a false flag, an inside job. And, you know, at the time it wasn't clear. And when you said this to a lot of people, people would think, oh, you know, you're crazy conspiracy. But now it's all clear, all along what's been going on, is that you have an Anglo-Saudi alliance. The Israelis are a small piece of it, not major, took down our security on 9/11 and funded the whole operation to get us into this war in Iraq. Well, it is that same apparatus that President Obama has been protecting all along. In fact, it was Obama that didn't want the 9/11 Commission documents that exposed how Prince Bandar Ben Sultan, who's on the board.
Sure. He's the same guy that. He's the same guy just threatening last week the Russians with terror attacks with Al-Qaeda if they didn't do what they're told. No, I mean, I think that's the answer to all this, and I appreciate your call, sir, is that the globalists think they're going to nuclear blackmail the world and just basically get everybody to go along with them, shut up the planetary government, turn off the resources, and then soft kill everybody, and we've got to stand against them. Because, it's, you know, if they were going to kill everybody to really save the earth, in their view, that'd be bad enough. But these are psycho demons that just say they're going to kill everybody to save the earth to their lower-level minions. That they want to kill everybody because they're a bunch of demon-possessed goblins from the 10th dimension. John Rappaport, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to go out with Under My Thumb. That's what they think we are. I say we're not. Thank you so much, John Rappaport.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it very much.
All right, Lord willing, we'll see you back tomorrow, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Central. Get the story about the missing nukes at Infowars.com. I'm not under John Kerry's thumb. I'm in God's heart, ladies and gentlemen. God is in my heart.
Now you can watch Alex Jones live at Infowars.com/show.
You'll find links to all of our content there and a free 15-day trial for Prison Planet TV.
You can also browse the network, the InfoWars Nightly News,
And over 60 movies and documentaries all together in one place.
You can watch the Alex Jones radio show live as it happened.
So check it out, Infowars.com/show.